This 40-minute sales training is guaranteed to make you $10,000 per month in 2025 and even beyond. In fact, it's one of the modules that my students get access to directly when they work with us and join Consulting Fastlane. This module alone is worth thousands of dollars. I'm not joking. And nobody else is talking about this stuff. But today, you're getting it for completely free. So enjoy. So welcome to the first module of the first part of phase 3, which is all about sales. Learning how to sell is exactly what took me from being a broke 17-year-old with only $400 to my name to closing $1,000 deals on meetings with complete strangers. Honestly, if you had met me 5 years ago and you told me I would be collecting payments for thousands of dollars from complete strangers, even though we've never spoken before, I wouldn't have believed you. Now, at the time, I was so anxious, I couldn't even leave my parents' house for months just to go for a walk in the neighborhood. Sometimes in my YouTube videos, I tell my story, and maybe by now you will have heard that in my past, I went through some pretty traumatic events. So I'm not really going to go that much in depth because it's pretty intimate and personal stuff. But basically at school, I was heavily bullied, and I was dealing with many personal issues in my family as well. So it was far from being easy. And so because I was treated like shit by a lot of people, and I couldn't really understand why, because I was trying to do my best to please other people. I wasn't really a people pleaser, not in the literal definition of it, but I wanted people to like me and to love me. And so because people treated me badly, like they bullied me, they made fun of me, I was excluded oftentimes, I felt very lonely. And whenever I'd speak up, whenever I'd say something, people would usually laugh at me, make fun of me. So when you're a young kid, that kind of stuff really affects you. It goes into your subconscious. And then as you grow up, you're an adult, for some reason, you have anxiety and you can't explain why. It's because all that stuff in your childhood literally made you into who you are today. If my parents had been well off, if I had grown up in a wealthy family, I wouldn't have had the drive I have today to build profitable businesses and to be successful. Because I would see my mother filling out online surveys just to get free products at the grocery store. It's only because I had this kind of life of upbringing that it gave me the drive and the hunger to go for so much more. So the reason why I'm telling you all of this, and if you know me then you know, I hate speaking about myself, but when you're building a brand you kind of have to tell your story for people to relate to you. And I have lots of people who come to me and they tell me they really resonated with my story. So if I can share my story to inspire others, I'm going to do it. But my goal when I tell you my story is essentially to show you like where I started and in what kind of shitty position I was in, even just in terms of like who I was as an individual. If you take a look at the way I spoke when I made my first YouTube videos, it was terrible. You could feel the anxiety in my voice. In fact, I will put a little segment of a video that I made on my channel over 2 years ago now, and you will hear the way I spoke so you can see for yourself. We can always make more money, but unfortunately, we can't always have more time. So why should I listen to you, you may be wondering? So as you can see, that was a scared, anxious boy who was speaking. And the reason this matters is because if I could go from being so anxious, I couldn't even leave my parents' house for months to go for a walk in the neighborhood. I mean, do you realize how bad it was for me? I couldn't even go outside, what the fuck? If I was able to go from that to only having $400 in my bank account, having to do unpaid internships for school, in phone repair companies, in restaurants, in temporary work agencies, even in convenience stores, if I was able to do that, and nowadays I can close $1,000 deals on the phone with complete strangers, what makes you think you couldn't even do better than me? So without further ado, here is what we are going to cover in this module. First, we're going to take a look at why you absolutely need to master sales if you want to make $10,000 per month or even become rich. Then, we'll take a look at why great salesmen are useless without this element, and I'm going to reveal exactly what this is. Then, we'll see why we want to sell on a meeting instead of selling on a sales page with a VSL and a button to buy. This keeps you broke, hopeless, and desperate. I'll explain everything in just a moment. It will all become crystal clear. Then I will explain why most people won't buy right now. And finally, we will go over the math to $10,000 per month. So first, let's take a look at why you absolutely need to master sales if you want to make $10,000 per month or even make millions. Now typically, when people try to start a successful business, they encounter one of the following problems or even all of the following problems. The first is that they try to sell something which nobody wants. So to give you an example, my father is really into yoga, and at some point he wanted to make a living doing that while he was working as a nurse. So he started to take some classes here and there and to teach yoga to students. He even completed some kind of degree and he got a certification. And so he went and he asked yoga teachers how they were able to run that business and if it was profitable, how they were making a living. And most of the time, the only people who were actually, successful with a yoga studio, it was like females in their 30s and they had no family, so no husband and child or anything. So they only had to support themselves. They didn't have the responsibility of having to take care of kids, of bringing a specific salary every month. And all of these people, they had their yoga studio, but they were barely breaking even. Some of them, they might have to close their yoga studio in the future because it's extremely expensive. They have to pay rent, which is about $2,000 per month in a big city, but they struggle to make $2,000 per month because they're not bringing in enough customers. There is not enough demand. And since they charge per hour, they don't charge $500 per hour. Everyday people would never buy yoga sessions for that kind of price tag, I'm sure you realize. And my father also spoke with lots of other people who got that yoga certification, and they wanted to open up a yoga studio as well, to be able to live from their passion. But all of the ones who tried, they failed miserably. They declared bankruptcy very quickly, for all the reasons we just spoke about. And that's the problem when you try to build a business solely around your passion. Ideally, it's great if you're passionate about what you do, and if also the market needs your solution. For me personally, it's amazing for me because I love helping people to build businesses because I'm passionate about building a business. And if you notice with me, I like being efficient. I like killing two birds with one stone. Vegans are not really going to like the analogy, but what I mean essentially is that even back when I got started, around 2022, and I was doing done-for-you lead generation services for entrepreneurs, I was helping them to book more meetings. Typically, the reason I chose to do that was because I knew entrepreneurs needed that service. Because myself as an entrepreneur, I would need to find a way to book meetings with my ideal customers so I could close them and make some money. If I couldn't figure out how to book meetings, then I would stay broke. And so I figured, if I have to learn that skill to make my business successful, why not leverage that skill and sell it as a service for other entrepreneurs? And that was my first successful offer. My first customer paid me around $300 because, to be honest, at the time, I didn't want to pitch more, but then I was able to increase my prices and I was charging at some point $2,000 per month per customer. And nowadays what I do is help ambitious people who start from scratch to build their online businesses, selling consulting and services up to $10,000 to $15,000 per month, and then we can scale from there. Because as you know, the sky isn't even the limit. I get the quote, the sky is the limit, but really there are no limits when you run an online business. That's why I love it. So not only am I lucky enough and privileged enough to do something I actually love, to help people to do something which I genuinely believe in. I don't believe in the traditional 9-to-5 route. Sure, I believe we need doctors. I believe we need people who take out the trash. I believe we need people who make food like cooks. I believe we need nurses. We need all of those people. So not everybody is cut out to be a business owner because it wouldn't make sense. The world wouldn't even run. However, I am against society telling everybody needs to be an employee. Some people are meant to be leaders. Some people, they just need more freedom. That's how it is. And so for these specific individuals, for that minority of ambitious people, I want to help them to reach their goals, make a lot of money, while at the same time solving painful problems for people. That way we literally make the world a better place. We make money doing what we love, helping people. Isn't that amazing? And this is also great news for you, because everything I share with you inside of this training program, I've tried myself, I've done myself, and I still do to this day. So I'm sharing with you industry secrets that even some of the biggest gurus you can think of right now are not even willing to share with you. So they make you pay thousands of dollars for their courses, but they're going to tell you to do the opposite of what got them to where they are. Now sure, if let's say somebody's a millionaire and they told a beginner, well, just invest $100,000 or $1 million in real estate, that's very bad advice, because the beginner can't do that, nor should they start there. But telling somebody, oh, just send out cold emails every single day, thousands of cold emails a day, and you will get customers that way, when all they do is use paid advertising, for example, that's super hypocritical. Everything I'm sharing with you, either I've done it myself or I'm still doing it to this day. So you need to sell something that people want. Otherwise, you won't make any money. That's the most important part of the equation. Ideally, you can find something you're passionate about and make money solving that painful problem for people. And typically what I advise that people do is that they pick a niche or a painful problem to solve based on their own experience. So to give you an example, me, I come from the lower middle class, and my painful problem all of my life was that I wanted to make more money. I wanted to have more freedom. So what better problem for me to solve than this specific problem of making more money, of having a profitable consulting business online? Now let's say in the past you overcame a drinking addiction. What better problem could you solve for people than helping them to overcome their drinking addiction? Because if you yourself were part of your niche, you had that same problem these people are trying to fix, you know how to fix it better than anyone else. And on top of that, you know your niche's problems, pain points, and desires better than anyone else. Now, the other reason why people fail to start a successful business is because they sell a great product or a great service, but they're not getting any customers because no one knows about them. I like to give this example, but let's say you had a tea shop in the middle of the desert. How much tea do you really think you're going to sell on a monthly basis? You won't make any sales. Your shop will be a complete failure, a complete disaster, because nobody knows that you even have tea to sell. Instead, a smart thing to do would be to open up your tea shop in the middle of a busy road in London. Now, to give you another example, a more practical example, think about your favorite influencer right now, getting 0 views on all of their videos all of a sudden. How would they make money then? Now sure, they might be utilizing paid ads, referrals, or other things as well to get customers. But if it's a big influencer, they're selling courses, or coaching, or ebooks, or anything, softwares, all of a sudden they have 0 views per month. How much money would they really make? You could be selling a great service, a great product, have an amazing offer, but if you get no booked meetings, if you're not pitching anyone, you won't make money. It's that simple. And the mistake that people make is thinking that their offer is the problem when they're not booking enough meetings. I had somebody who came to me the other day, like a week ago, I think, something like that. And the guy was so obsessed with his offer. He kept telling me his problem was the offer. When the guy was making money consistently every month, and he worked with lots of companies. So I told him, dude, if you booked more meetings, you would get more customers. You are already getting paid customers. It means you have proof of concept. People want what you have to offer. But the guy was so stubborn, he wouldn't hear what I was saying. He was like, no, I need help with my offer. So don't be like that guy. Be open to suggestions. When I give you feedback, I'm doing it because I have a different perspective. Like sometimes you're so immersed in the thing that you do, you don't realize the mistakes you're making. So when I do give you feedback, try to receive it with an open mind. So when you have a proven offer, meaning you know what you sell, you know who you sell it to, you know how much to price it, you need to become obsessed with getting visibility for your offer. And more precisely, you need to become obsessed with getting more booked calls. Now in phase 5 of this program, I'm going to show you how you can do that. It's going to be all about lead generation. The first part of lead generation is going to be about inbound marketing. So how to get customers to come to you. This is by far the most efficient way to market your products or services. You might not see results instantly within the week of starting, but months down the line, it will bring you quality leads consistently. And the stuff I'm going to share with you is the stuff that allows me to wake up and see that I've booked 6 new meetings with my ideal customers. And that's the stuff that the big gurus are not willing to tell you. And in the second part of phase 5, I'm going to show you how you can get customers and leads and book meetings using outbound marketing techniques. And I'll show you exactly what I did back when I was doing my done-for-you lead generation services and how I was booking meetings consistently every single week with my ideal customers. But we'll discuss that in detail. So let's come back to the topic at hand, which is the art of sales. Now, the other thing that typically prevents people from running a successful business is that they're selling the right thing, but they're selling it to the wrong people. So you could be getting visibility, you have a good offer, but you're not making any sales or you're not booking meetings because you're selling it to the wrong people. Just picture for a moment trying to sell meat to vegans. Your offer isn't bad. Some people do buy meat. Of course, some people love meat. There's plenty of recipes with meat. However, if you try to sell meat to vegans, no matter the quality of your meat, the quality of your marketing, it simply won't matter. You won't make a single cent. So you need to have all of these elements. You need to have the right offer, sell it to the right people, get enough visibility, enough attention from your ideal customers, book enough meetings, and pitch enough people. If you can do these things successfully, you will become extremely wealthy Like you can make $100,000 per month, you can make $10,000 per day. There's no limit. And if you're able to get one customer, you can get 10, you can get 100, you can get 1,000. All you need is to get that first customer and you have proof of concept. It means more people like that would be willing to buy from you the same thing. And so the problem, when you're selling the right thing, but to the wrong people, is that you can stay stuck for a very, very long time, thinking that the problem comes from your offer, when in reality, it's not the problem. It's just that you're not putting your offer in front of the right people, and so your message doesn't resonate. So in order to make $10,000 per month, and scale even further than that, make $10,000 per day, you need to follow the 3 following elements. So you need to sell the right thing, to the right people, and to communicate the value that you offer properly. Not doing that is, like I said, trying to sell meat to vegans and telling them that if they eat this meat, it will make them real strong and allow them to become better hunters. So it's a stupid example, but you get my point. You're selling something to people that they don't want and promising an outcome they couldn't care less about. In fact, they're gonna hate you for it. And that's exactly why this offer is extremely bad. It's horrible. You're selling something to the wrong people and telling them something they absolutely don't want to hear. And while it might sound like it's a stupid example, you would be surprised to see how many aspiring consultants and business owners actually fall for the trap. Like, to give you an example, I had a guy try to pitch me creating a Discord server for me. And I didn't care because guess what that's going to do for me? I don't want a Discord server just for the sake of having one. Plenty of people also come to me to try and pitch me video editing. So they come at me and they say, hey look, I can edit better videos for you. And okay, that's great, but what's the outcome behind that? Why should I care? It's all great and nice to have fancy animation in your videos, but if it doesn't reach more people, if it doesn't lead to more clients, what's the point really? So they're selling something to the wrong person, and they're not communicating the value of what they have to offer properly. Now, especially if you're targeting business owners, you have to realize that they get pitched 24/7. So as soon as they sense it's a pitch, they just tune out. The only exception is that if it's a no-brainer offer, if it's an offer so good, it would be stupid to say no, then you're going to start getting business owners' attention. And you need to be able to fulfill on that promise, of course. And typically, the way you create an amazing offer, especially if you're doing B2B, is to give people a 10x return on their investment. So if you could help a business to make an extra $20,000 per month, they would gladly be willing to pay you $2,000 per month for your services. Now, when you're doing B2C, business to consumers, it's a bit more complex because typically, since you're not necessarily helping people to have a financial return on investment, you can't say, well, I'm going to make you 10 times more money. If you help somebody to overcome a drinking addiction, to fix their marriage, to become more confident, to become more productive, you can't really focus on the financial aspect, even though you can use it in your pitch to make them realize how it's going to benefit every aspect of their lives. To give you a practical example, if you were to be a marital advisor, because you avoided divorce and now you want to help others to avoid the same tragic fate. Well, typically, you can also have the financial argument, because if you were to help people to overcome a divorce, it's very costly. They could lose like lots of assets, hundreds of thousands of dollars, even millions of dollars in high net worth divorces. But my point is, you don't have to sell something which has to do with making more money to charge a high ticket offer. There's a woman I came across one day and she's called Brittany Brown, and she basically helps women to overcome binge eating disorders. That is extremely powerful, and I know for a fact she charges a high ticket price and people pay her because it's an extremely painful problem to live with. If you take a look at the post on Reddit about binge eating disorders, people are in so much pain it's not even funny. And it's actually more common than you would think in the fitness industry. Because with all of the pressure that you have on social media, which is to look extremely hot all the time, have your six-pack all year round, it's terrible what it does to people. And then you can see videos online like 10,000 calorie challenge, I eat 10,000 calories in a day. And so of course, it creates massively unrealistic expectations for people. Now the reason you need to master sales, if you want to make $10,000 per month and even more, is because you could be selling the right offer to the right people, but if you sell it poorly and you don't know how to properly communicate the value of what you're offering, you won't make much money. It's that simple. Now maybe you've heard of Jordan Belfort. He's basically the real Wolf of Wall Street. His life story is so insane, they literally made a movie about it, and they hired none other than Leonardo DiCaprio himself to play the main character, Jordan Belfort. Now if you've never watched that movie, I suggest you do, it's a pretty funny movie. But basically, to sum up the whole story, he was a stockbroker and he was broke. And then he got hired and then he started to work at Wall Street. And then the financial crash came around, so nobody was investing. So he was still in a shitty position financially. And then he created his own company, Stratton Oakmont. And at first he was basically cold calling people to essentially get them to buy penny stocks. Because on those stocks, compared to blue chip stocks, they would receive a huge commission. And what the stockbrokers wanted was to get their clients to spend as much money as possible. That way, they would receive huge commissions. And what he did was that he built that business into a huge company. So at some point, he had hundreds of people working under him, all following his proven framework, a sales script. He built an insane company culture. Like, they would do these crazy things. They would have hookers coming in at the office, like crazy things. And he literally turned everyday people into killer sales reps, earning millions of dollars worth in commissions every single year. All of that because he gave them a sales script and a proven framework to follow. Seriously, I'm not joking. And later on in this training program, in this phase in fact, I'm going to give you the best sales script in the world. Now when I say that, you might think I'm over-exaggerating, but I'm not. Seriously, I'm not. I know for a fact that this sales script has generated probably over $100 million by now in the world, because I learned it from one of my mentors, and many of his students learned it as well, and saw gigantic success with this method, and even my own students as well. And it's with this business model, selling services and consulting, that I've seen the most amount of people start from rock bottom, literally just broke, making no money, or having some kind of shitty job just to pay the bills, to becoming 6 to 7 figure a year earners. So this stuff is honestly gold. Now, great salesmen are useless without this. Selling is great, but there's something that's even more important, and it's having people to sell your products or services to. I gave you the example with the tea shop in the middle of the desert. Well, obviously, if you've got a tea shop in the middle of the desert, you're not going to sell anything. And the truth is, you could take the best salesman in the world, Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street himself, or even people like Grant Cardone, but if you were to lock them in a room alone, with no one to pitch, and you tell them you have to make $1 million in 24 hours, otherwise you can't get out, and you're never going to get out ever. Guess what's going to happen? They have no one to pitch, they're not going to make the $1 million. They will literally stay stuck in that room and die. Which is why in phase 5, which is all about lead generation, I'm going to show you the best ways to get your offer in front of your ideal customers. Because without that, nothing happens. You could have the potential to be an incredible salesman, but you would never know. You would never know because you're not pitching anyone. Now in that phase, I will be sharing with you these secrets of the industry leaders. The kind of stuff that nobody actually dares to tell you in their paid programs, because the truth is, they don't want you to compete with them. I'm not joking when I say that a lot of these big gurus out there, you know their names. They purposefully leave this kind of stuff out of their programs just so they make sure you can't steal their systems and replicate them. So it's less competition to worry about for them. They don't actually give a shit whether you succeed or fail. And you may wonder, well, why do you give a shit whether I succeed or fail? I've paid you. The thing is, I like when people send me their notifications of their first Stripe payment, because then I can use that myself to get more customers by showing others, look, my customers followed my process, it worked for them, come work with me and I'll help you to achieve the same. So first, there's the selfish reason of, I want to grow my own business. But then the second reason is, I know what it's like to grow up broke and miserable. And to me, there's nothing more gratifying than knowing I've helped somebody to get out of this shitty situation. It's like the same reason why people give money to charity. Technically speaking, what do they get out of it? They don't get nothing out of giving to charity. They get a feeling of having done the right thing. They feel like they're a good individual who contributes to society. Like they're doing something for the greater good. And human beings typically love to have a mission to do something which is just not for them, but also for other people. When I have calls with people, a lot of them, like the vast majority, tell me that the reason they want to be financially free, it's not even just for themselves necessarily. In fact, I don't even hear people tell me that they want to buy a sports car that much. I do hear it, but it's never the main thing. The main thing is always, I want to provide for my family. I want to retire my parents. I want to pay off the debt that they have. I want to never worry about working for a boss ever again. So it's about freedom. Now, why we want to sell on a meeting and not on a sales page with a VSL and a button to buy? Why? Because if you do this, it's going to keep you broke, hopeless, and miserable. While I was building my done-for-you lead generation service, I tried to sell products with a VSL and a button to buy. And I was getting very decent traffic on that page. In a year, I got something like 600 leads. So it's not only people who clicked on my link to view my webpage, but it's people who gave me their email so I could then show them my VSL. And at the end, there was a pitch and they could buy if they wanted. And guess how many clients I got with that VSL? I only got one customer out of 600 people who actually gave me their email and wanted to see that video. One fucking customer in 365 days. Now, luckily at the time, I had my done for you service, but I thought, all the big gurus have these fancy VSLs and webinars that are like 3 hours long, and that's how they make millions per month, so let me try. And while this works, it only works when you are at the level of the big guru. Either you have a crazy budget for ads, or you have millions of followers and you get millions of views per month on your videos. Now, there are a few methods available to sell products and services. Typically, there's 3 main methods. You have a VSL on a sales page with a button to pay. So it's essentially a video which is typically 30 minutes long, and you explain people why they should buy your solution. You don't say it like that. It's more subtle. But for example, for me, if I were to have a VSL, I would need to make people understand that consulting is the best business model, not dropshipping, not Amazon FBA, not some crap. And then I would pitch them my offer and make them understand what they have to gain out of working with me and what they're going to miss out on if they don't. So I not only need to convince people that this business model is the right business model, the best in fact, but on top of that, I need to convince them I am the right person to work with. So it's pretty difficult to do in a webinar or in a VSL. And then typically you can have webinars, which are typically the same thing as VSLs, but they're usually 1 hour to 1 hour and a half. And like the last 30 minutes, it's typically question and answers. And oftentimes the first webinar, it's actually a live presentation. So people typically run ads to a page with a webinar, a training, and then some people will buy at the end because there's a call to action to buy with a special offer, usually like a $500 discount. Now, of course, it depends on how much you sell your offer for. You're not going to have a $500 discount if you sell something for $500. It wouldn't make sense. And both these methods work, except that conversion rates are extremely low, 0.5% up to 2% at most. So what this means is that if you want to make these methods work, you need a lot of visibility. It's working for your favorite influencers because they have that visibility, but you don't. And it takes years. It can take you 5 years to get to the point where you have that much visibility. And that's 5 years full time. So for beginners, that doesn't work. But there is a third method, luckily, to sell products and services, which converts even better than the VSLs and webinars. And that method is to conduct a 30 to 45-minute meeting. And when you use a proven framework, a sales script, you are able to convert complete strangers who have never spoken with you personally before into paying customers who literally pay you thousands of dollars. So what I see a lot of people do is that they see their favorite big guru using a VSL and a webinar and sell thousands of dollars worth of courses every day. And so they think, wow, this is great. It makes a lot of money, so let me do the same. Except that you try and you fail miserably. And you keep trying because you think, oh, it's just a matter of time until I succeed. But then time goes by and nothing changes. You're still broke, miserable as hell, depressed, trying to sell your $200 course or school community. And you wonder why it's not working. And you wonder how come some people are able to make $10,000 per month, $20,000 per month, and they have the financial freedom that you would love to have. And you're not different compared to these big YouTubers. Some of them, most of them, they just got lucky. I'll be honest with you. Most of them, if you hear their story, they got lucky. They had a video blow up. I've had some videos on my channel get 5,000 views, 2,000 views, whereas typically my average videos for now, they get 200 views. And it's like, what did I do differently? Nothing. It's just that the video got shown more to people because maybe people liked it more. The topic was better. It's like sometimes you don't even necessarily know why. Now, don't make me say what I haven't said. If you want to be lucky, you have to make yourself lucky. So typically these big YouTubers that you see, for example, they actually made hundreds of videos before they popped off and got lucky. So I'm not saying it was easy, by any means. In fact, right now I've had like 315 videos published on my channel, long form videos. I'm not talking about the shorts, like genuinely long form videos. And those take a lot of time to make. And the reason this works for the big gurus, the reason why they make thousands of dollars per month selling courses and programs and coaching, even services, is because they have a huge amount of leverage. They usually have a crazy budget for ads because they make a lot of money with their audience. but they also get millions of views on social media, and so they print free money, and they can use that money to reinvest a huge part of it into paid ads and scale the business even more. So it creates a positive cycle. The hardest part is obviously getting started. Now, if we take a look at the math, on a VSL or webinar funnel, you typically have a 0.5 conversion rate. So whereas with a meeting, conversion rates is typically between 15 to 30%. And so all the people who see your web page, they won't actually give you your email. It's typically going to be 20%. So if you have 100 clicks on your website, 100 people see your website, what you have to offer, your landing page, that's what we call it. Only 20% give you their email. So it's 20 people who get to watch your video. Whereas if you had 100 booked calls, you actually have 60 sales calls. And let's say you're really bad at it, you only close 10%. Like the conversion rate is typically, like I said, on average between 15 to 30%. But let's say you suck at sales, you are the worst sales guy in the world, you have no script, you're doing bullshit, you close 10%. You still get 6 customers. Now, if every customer pays you $500, you've made $3,000. And $500, it's the lower end of the range. If you charge $1,000, you've made $6,000. If you charge $2,000, you've made double. Whereas with a webinar page that converts at 0.5%, you would need thousands of leads to actually start making a few sales. So do you understand now why booking meetings with your ideal customers and having a sales script is the way to sell them on your offer? So when you lack visibility, because you're still a new fish in the pond, the new kid on the block, you need to utilize the method that allows you to get the highest possible conversion rates with the little visibility you've got. When I publish a video on YouTube, I don't control how many views it's going to get. If you see me often remaking the same types of videos with similar titles and thumbnails, it's because I want to make more of the content that works and that brings me leads and customers. So if you only had 100 people in a month who come across your offer, here's how many customers you would get with each method. Let's say you get 100 leads, 100 people give you their emails every month. If you have a VSL and a webinar, and you convert luckily at 0.5%, you most likely won't get any clients because you don't have enough visibility. Now, if you were to hop on meetings, if you closed 20% of 100 calls, that's 20 clients. So if you sold something for $500, you would make $10,000. If you sold something for $1,000, you would make $20,000. So I really hope that by now you understand why it's crucial that we sell your product or service on a meeting and not through a webinar or VSL, at least not right now. Not to mention that when you sell your products with a VSL or a webinar, you have no way of getting direct feedback from the market. So unless you've spoken to lots of people in your market, you don't really know what they want and what they feel is holding them back from getting the thing that they want. You don't know what objections or what limiting beliefs they may have. So it's very difficult to craft a good VSL or a webinar that actually converts. So you don't want to be lazy and to just want to redirect people to a web page and have them click on a button to buy. You need to take sales calls. And when you've done 1,000 sales calls or more, if you want to scale further, utilize a VSL or a webinar, by now you will have spoken to hundreds, if not thousands of people, so you will know exactly what to say in your video to actually make it a killer VSL or webinar that will convert complete strangers into paying customers and for high ticket prices. Now, typically when you sell something for more than 1.5K, you do sales calls. If you're going to utilize a VSL or a webinar, the most you're going to be able to charge is typically 1.5K. So if you sell an offer for $3,000, you need to utilize sales calls. Webinars and VSLs are typically for less expensive products, usually around $50 all the way up to, like I said, 1.5K. So now we need to take a look at why most people won't buy right now. So typically 99% of people won't buy now, and actually it's normal. Only 1% is willing to buy right now, and our job is to identify that 1%. So that's exactly what I'm going to show you how to do in phase 5, which is all about lead generation. Now, for someone to buy, they need to fit this criteria. They need to see the value in what you have to offer. So in other words, to be sold on your product or service. And they need to be willing to make a change right now and fix the problem that's plaguing them right now. You would honestly be surprised to see how many people have a painful problem, a drinking addiction, a relationship that's falling apart, a shitty financial situation. Yet, they decide to put things off, even though they say that thing really matters to them. But some people, they're just full of doubts and they really need you to help them to pull the trigger essentially and to make the buying decision that will change their life. So not only do they need to see the value in what you have to offer, so they need to be sold on your product or service before they even hop on a call with you, but they also need to be willing to make a change now to fix the painful problem that they have. And they also need to have the finances to invest right now. Sometimes I speak with extremely qualified leads. And by qualified, I mean I know I can help these people and they're super interested. They know who I am because they've watched my content and they know how I can help. But they tell me they don't have the money to invest right now. Now, you have to be able to differentiate between the false objections and the real objections. A real objection would be something like, well, I need to pay my rent. Or I just spent a lot of money fixing my car, so I can't invest at the moment. So those are real objections. You can't do anything about that. But usually, when people give you a false objection, it's going to be more vague. They will say something like, I need to think about it. Or I need to talk about it with my spouse or with my parents if you sell to younger people. But those are usually smoke screens. And the prospect will only tell you what the real concern is if they feel safe in your presence. So later on in this sales training, I'll show you how you can handle objections. Because typically, when somebody fits the criteria we're looking for, meaning they have the money to invest, they're super interested, they know what you do and how you can help, and they're ready to make a change, there is no reason for them not to sign up and not to become your customer. So if you don't sign that customer, don't blame them. If they tell you, I need to think about it, and you don't know what to answer, you let them go, you're like, okay, it's on you if you didn't close the deal. It's not because the universe hates you, it's not because, oh, this prospect is horrible, it's because you didn't know what to answer. Which is why, again, like I said, I'll show you how to handle objections. And I will also show you methods to prevent objections from even coming up in the first place. Because what's better than handling objections is to prevent them from happening in the first place. Now let's take a look at the math to $10,000 per month. And I'm going to give you a few different examples. And you can tailor it to your offer. So let's say you decided to sell copywriting services to content creators to help them to create more engaging video scripts, which will in turn help them to get more views on their content, which will increase their visibility and give them more customers. Let's say you're going to price your offer at $1,500 per month. So in order to hit $10,000 per month, you need 6.6 customers. So let's make it 7 for the sake of the example. Meaning, you only need to close 7 customers at $1,500 to make $10,000 per month. So if you sign customers for a minimum term of 3 months, you only really need to find new customers a few times per year. Let's say you were able to book 80 calls a month with your ideal customers. Not everyone who books a call will actually show up. No-shows are part of the process. In fact, the first sales call I ever booked for my done-for-you lead generation, it wasn't for my done-for-you offer. It was for my productivity coaching offer. The very first consulting offer I ever tried to provide for people. The guy said he was super interested. He literally told me in my Instagram DMs he needed my help personally. So he booked a call with me and I was hyped. I got my first Calendly notification for booking a meeting. It felt amazing. And then at the time of the meeting, the guy doesn't even show up. And yet, that didn't prevent me from having $1,000 days later down the line. Because I didn't give up, I kept at it, and eventually I cracked the code, which is exactly what I'm sharing with you in this training program. So you have to accept that no-shows are a part of the process. The average show-up rate is typically between 50 to 75%. Sometimes it can even be as high as an 80%. So let's take 50% as an example. Out of the 80 calls you booked, only 40 show up. Out of the 40 people you have a conversation with, only 20% turn into paying customers. That's 8 clients closed through 1.5K. You literally just made $12,000. Now let's take another example. You help people to overcome an alcohol addiction. This problem is ruining their life. It's something they would be willing to pay a lot of money to get rid of. And in the past, you yourself struggled with a drinking addiction. So you know how to overcome it, you know how painful it is, and you know how much it would change people's lives if they were able to finally get rid of this painful problem. Let's say your coaching package is priced at $2,000. So if you wanted to make $10,000 per month, you would only need 5 clients. Let's say you were able to book 50 calls with your ideal prospects. And let's say you have a show-up rate of 50%, meaning 1 out of 2 people actually show up. So you take 25 meetings per month. 20% buy, which means you get 5 clients at $2,000 each. So you've just made $10,000. And that's the math to making $10,000 per month with a consulting business. So as you can see, you only need a few customers, and it's much more effective to sell people on your offer using a meeting as opposed to trying to sell it through a VSL or a webinar funnel. Keep that for later, because before you can even think about making millions of dollars per month, let's be realistic for a moment. First, you need to make 10K per month. Take it one step at a time. What gets you to 10K per month won't get you to $1 million per month, or at least you would have to do it differently, but that's why you want to take it one step at a time. Now, in the next few modules, I'm going to explain the difference between inbound versus outbound sales and why we have to sell differently, whether it's inbound or outbound. They don't close the same way. And then I'm going to share with you the attitude of successful salespeople, because it's extremely important. So don't miss any of the modules. Watch them all in sequential order, multiple times if you need. And in fact, the people who really see success, they keep coming back to the modules over and over again. And then I will show you how you can overcome your fear of selling. Take it from me. I was this anxious guy who was so afraid he couldn't even go for a walk in the neighborhood, leave his parents' house for months. And I procrastinated working on my first consulting offers for more than 7 months because I was afraid of rejection and of selling. So if I could overcome my fear, my paralysis, and I couldn't even go for a walk outside, do you realize how insane this is? Chances are you can do better than me. Definitely. So with that said, I am waiting for you in the next module. Now, if you found this 40-minute sales training valuable, it's not even a tenth of what we cover inside of Consulting Fastlane. If you'd like to see if you qualify for working with us closely, and if we can help you to start or scale your business to $10,000 per month and even beyond, I invite you to apply to book a free call with me or my team, and we'll see if we can help you. Now, keep in mind, this is a limited time offer, and due to limited capacity as well, there won't be enough spots for everybody. And since the things I share with my students are extremely powerful, and you won't find them anywhere on YouTube, I wouldn't want to give access to this kind of value to just anyone. So with that said, book your free call and I will see you on the other side.